Tonight, one person is dead, 4 others are in hospital following a series of major incidents, all linked on the Isle of Skye in Lochalsh.
We'll be live with the latest from the scene. Also making the headlines, exclusive pictures from Grangemouth as contractors walk out in a row over pay at Scotland's only oil refinery.
Everything's rising and you're having to work 6, maybe 7 days a week. Some of the guys, they're bringing a wage in. It's the only wage in the house. Everybody's finding it hard right now. We're really having to put the hours in and work that much harder.
In sport, Rangers will face PSV Eindhoven for a place in the Champions League after their 3-0 win last night.
And meet some new faces in an Edinburgh mural, almost 10 years in the making. I'm Kellyanne Woodland in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mackay in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6.
Good evening. A 47-year-old man has died and 3 others injured after a number of linked incidents across the Isle of Skye and the Highlands.
Armed officers were called to the area this morning. A 39-year-old man who is in hospital has been arrested. Ian Ramage has this report.
People are shell-shocked by the day's events on Skye and here on the nearby mainland. Police say 4 people were injured. They're in hospitals in Broadford, Inverness and Glasgow. The violence started in a house in the remote village of Taskeveg, where a woman was seriously injured. Police say they were alerted to the initial incident shortly before 9. They attended further incidents at Cheng, also in the south of the island, and finally at another remote house in Dorney, near Elandonan Castle. The ambulance service was called at 9:02 and attended all 3 locations. There were multiple ambulances, air ambulances and a special operations team. Neighbours were oblivious to the first incident here at Taskeveg in the south of Skye. One neighbour telling me the first she knew of anything was an air ambulance arriving beside the house at about 10 o'clock. Community leaders have been shocked by the day's events.
My own personal thoughts are that it's of shock that such an incident has taken place within our island and within our close communities here, and our immediate thoughts are with those families who have been immediately affected by this terrible tragedy, by the sound of things, and the other communities who have to live with it over the next few years.
When you live in a place like Skye and Lochalsh, you don't think that these kind of incidents will happen, but it shows that no community is immune from these kind of things taking place. I think the community is deeply shocked. And we'll need to think about the kind of support that we have in place, but I think the emergency services today have done a first-class job, whether that's been the police, the NHS, and indeed the local authority, because there's safeguarding issues that need to come into play here. But first and foremost, there's really just shock in what are rural and remote communities that this kind of thing has come to Skye and Lochalsh.
A 39-year-old man has been arrested. Police say the situation was contained and their inquiries ongoing.
Ian is on Skye just now, and as you said, Ian, a real sense of disbelief today.
The day began as normal, beautiful blue skies. It was beautifully warm, the area buzzing with tourists at the peak time of the year. Mood tonight, very, very different. Not only have the clouds come in, but there's an overwhelming self of just disbelief. News had gradually filtered out during the day that 4 people were thought to have been wounded in some sort of incident. We now know that the 5th man has died. He hasn't been identified by police. It's been an unprecedented day for emergency teams. Police say their inquiries will continue.
Ian on Skye, thank you. Hundreds of workers at the Grangemouth oil refinery are taking wildcat strike action over a pay dispute, forming picket lines, blocking roads and stopping oil tankers getting in and out of Scotland's only refinery. The workers are all subcontractors who had agreed to pay a pay rise of 5% over 2 years. But as the cost of living soars, they are now demanding more.
The workers are telling STV News they're struggling to pay their bills and provide for their families at a time when petrol prices have been at an all-time high and oil company profits in the billions. Well, our reporter Courtney Cameron is at Grangemouth for us tonight. Courtney.
Yes, Kellyanne, well, the scene here tonight is nothing out of the ordinary, but this morning that was a completely different picture. 500 workers walked out in a national dispute over pay, leaving the facility here with limited maintenance and repair staff. And it looks like today won't be the end of it. As the cost of living crisis deepens, the workers here say unless pay negotiations are brought back to the table, there's more action like this to come. As the sun rose in Grangemouth, tempers flared. The atmosphere becoming heated as workers blocked roads and explaining why they're striking. They took a pay freeze and worked long hours during the pandemic. Now they're hitting back. Those we spoke to didn't want to show their faces on camera for fear of losing their job.
Everything's rising and you're having to work 6, maybe 7 days a week. Some of the guys, they're bringing a wage in. It's the only wage in the house. Everybody's finding it hard right now. We're really having to put the hours in and work that much harder. I feel that we're needing a bit of response from the ECIA.
Just had a newborn, me and my wife, so I'm the only person bringing a wage into the house. The cost of living is really affecting us just now, with the price of fuel, coming to work, the washing machine, sterilisers, bottles.
Hundreds of workers have been picketing since around 5:30 this morning. They're now making their way up through the refinery, stopping at each gate to make their message clear. Those employed by the contractors involved received a letter advising them if they participate, they could face disciplinary action. But until pay negotiations are reopened with the organisation which represents them, the workers say they plan to strike every second Wednesday. Experts say it's worrying for the oil and gas industry across Scotland.
This refinery is almost 20% of the UK's whole refining capacity. It's about 16%. And I think it's provided quite maybe 2/3 of the Scottish fuels supply. It will have some short-term impact.
None of the workers involved are employed by Petro-Ineos, who run the plant. The oil giant declined TV interviews, but in a statement says it's disappointed and claims the site has a very good working relationship with the contracting companies and their employees. With petrol prices at a record high and oil companies making big profits, workers say they're left with no choice but to take matters into their own hands.
So, Courtney, a real sense of desperation from the contractors at Grangemouth, but there's still no word from the companies involved in this dispute.
Well, as I mentioned in my report, we did contact Ineos for an on-camera interview, but instead they provided us with a statement. We've also tried to contact the ECIA. Now, that's the organisation that's responsible for negotiating the workers' pays, but despite trying to contact them several times, we've yet to receive a response. So, as it stands, it looks like there will indeed be more strike action here in 2 weeks' time.
All right, Courtney, from Grangemouth with the very latest. Thank you. Well, meanwhile, cleansing workers across Scotland are threatening to go on strike, escalating a pay dispute with councils. Unite members are set to walk out next week, with members in another 14 councils, including Glasgow, Aberdeen and Dundee, following later this month.
But they say there is still time for councils to increase their 2% pay offer. Our political editor Colin Mackay is in Edinburgh. And Colin, is there any chance of a deal?
Well, it's not impossible, but I've spoken to people on all sides of this dispute today, and to be honest, it doesn't seem terribly likely any time soon. It's up to council leaders who are meeting on Friday to come up with a better deal for the 250,000 workers who are members of Unison, Unite and the GMB unions. The Scottish Government has already promised an extra 140 million. Now, if the councils were just to match that, that would take their total offer up to about 5%. To be honest, that's not going to cut it for the unions. What they want to talk about is a flat rate pay increase, so that proportionately those on the poorest salaries, the poorest pay, would get a little bit more. But this is ratcheting it up ahead of that meeting on Friday. You've got the cleansing workers here in Edinburgh ready to go out on strike next week during the Edinburgh Festival, and then followed up by 14 other councils, including Glasgow, Inverclyde, South and East Ayrshire, South Lanarkshire, East and West Lothian, Falkirk and Clackmannan.
The streets are not going to be cleaned, the bins are not going to be emptied, the recycle centres are going to be closed. That means there could be, rats going about. You know, this is their environmental workers, and we need to make sure the environment is safe for everyone.
But not getting your bins emptied is only the start of this. The schools start to go back across Scotland next week. Now, these unions are threatening that if they don't get an improved pay offer, then you could be looking at a 3-day strike in schools, closing them effectively for 3 days the first week in September, followed by a 1-day-a-week strike every week up until Christmas. There's a lot of potential industrial action around in Scotland just now, but this is one of the biggest.
Colin in Edinburgh, thank you. A family from Alloa say their lives have been left in limbo after the Passport Office lost crucial identification documents and withdrew their application from the system. Scott Spowage helped to process the information for a name change in the passports of his daughter and son, Madeline and Archie, and says he's lost all faith in the process.
The delay means Madeline has had to postpone her studies abroad, while Archie can't open a bank account or start driving lessons without the documentation. Ollie Dickinson reports.
Applying for a passport can be a stressful time, but for Scott Spowage and his family, it's been a nightmare. The simple process of changing a name on his son and daughter's passports has been anything but, after the Home Office lost their supporting documents and cancelled their applications.
Shambolic is probably the word I would use. Every time I was contacting them with issues throughout, it was always a generic response. It was always, we can't put you through to anybody else. And there's probably been about 10 occasions now between 2 applications that I've been in touch with HMPO. We're going to have to source original versions of these documents, the birth certificates, etc. And then reapply.
The process appears to be full of contradictions. For Madeline, her application was received in February with supporting documents approved by May. But in June, the Passport Office emailed saying they needed those very same documents, and by July, they had withdrawn the application, only confusingly to ask for documents to be sent again in August. For Archie, it's much the same. His documents were confirmed in March. He was told in April his passport would soon be dispatched, before in May being told his application was also withdrawn due to a failure to provide documents they said they'd received 3 months earlier.
A huge bit of loss in confidence in terms of what is happening. Where's the documents? Where's, it's 2 kids' identities. What's happened to them? Where are they?
For Madeline, that means she can't travel abroad to study and can't secure accommodation in Poland, whilst Archie can't open a bank account or even take driving lessons without his passport.
A lot of my friends were all turning 17, so they've all been getting their provisional driving licences and getting lessons and stuff, but obviously I've not been able to do that, and that's just, it's like demoralising really, just seeing everyone else being able to do all that stuff, and I just need to sit and wait, and nothing's happening.
Feels like I've been letting people down, almost, by not having a passport, because I've been telling friends and family, yeah, I'm going away at the start of June, but I'm still here, and it's really up and down.
The Home Office have now apologised to the family for any inconvenience caused and will work with them to secure the relevant documents. Ollie Dickinson, STV News.
Cancer services in Scotland will receive £10 million to help improve waiting times for patients. The money will be shared among all health boards and used to boost the number of operations available, create extra clinics and train new staff.
It comes as the latest figures show people being referred with urgent suspicion of cancer are waiting longer than the 62-day target for their first treatment. Vanessa Kennedy reports.
This is Karen's second visit to the breast clinic at Forth Valley Royal Hospital, and she's been seen quickly. And she's all too aware that speed is essential.
I don't know if you really have any expectations apart from you want to be seen as quickly as possible, and I think that's, you pay your national insurance and you want to be seen quickly and hopefully, get the treatment that you need.
But for too many patients across Scotland, diagnosis or treatment of cancer is being delayed. Last year, £10 million was invested in improving services after COVID. That's allowed the unit here to modernise, a setup that could now be replicated more widely with this latest investment.
We've been able to use that funding to train advanced practitioners to be able to see patients sooner. We've been able to train mammographers to take on a lot of the roles that have traditionally been done by consultant medical staff, which means that patients are able to be seen faster. It increases our capacity, and it's allowed us to be able to treat not just the about 4,000 referrals that we see in Forth Valley. We're able to see both urgent and routine referrals to the breast service within 2 weeks.
But the Health Secretary admits that current figures are simply not good enough.
We've consistently met the 31-day cancer target. It's a 62-day target. In particular cancers such as urology and upper GI cancers, that tends to evade us. So this money can be used for things like weekend clinics, for upskilling staff, for creating additional capacity in theatres, creating one-stop hubs like we have here in Forth Valley.
The new money will mean there's more capacity across the country, so people with cancer can have a better chance of a positive outcome. Vanessa Kennedy, STV News.
Other stories across Scotland, and the UK government says the Scottish Parliament does not have the power to hold another independence referendum. Law officers for the UK government are calling for the Supreme Court to reject the Scottish government's case. Judges at the court will hear both sides in October before ruling whether Holyrood can legislate for another vote.
People who live in tenements above an Edinburgh chip shop which went on fire won't be allowed to return to their flats until next week at the earliest. The blaze happened at Franco's in Newington on Monday morning. A full assessment of the damage is still to be made, but work to repair a burst water main in the basement and ceilings is due to take place.
The energy giant SSE is slashing thousands of pounds off the energy bills of an Aberdeen takeaway we featured on the STV News earlier this week. Martin Tang was planning to close his business after getting a gas bill for more than £10,000. That's been lowered after new meter readings were taken.
And a Scottish football blogger is appealing for help to find his missing dad. 57-year-old Andy Bonus was reported missing from London Links in Fife last Tuesday. His son Gordon, who's a keen Motherwell fan, says he's been heartened by the support he's received from the Scottish football community.
Everyone's come together really with like Rangers, Celtic fans, Aberdeen, Dundee United. I keep getting messages from folk every day asking for any news or updates. And we've got these alleged sightings in the Edinburgh and Inverkeithing area. But that's as far as it goes, unfortunately.
A 17-year-old from Castlemilk is the first person from her school to be accepted into Oxford University. Megan McCloskey begins her studies in chemistry in October after achieving straight A's in her exams. But Megan's big achievement could leave her in almost £80,000 of debt. Her parents say there should be more support available to allow pupils from deprived areas to aim high. Caroline Lewis reports.
It's taken years of hard graft, but yesterday 17-year-old Megan discovered her dreams were soon to come true.
It was kind of like it wasn't real, like it was disbelief, but then I was like, oh, it's real and it's happening. It was always a dream growing up, but then I never really knew that it could be a thing until I got into like my senior year at school, and I was like planning about applying to unis, and I was like, oh, I could do Oxford if I really tried.
Megan attended the same school in Castlemilk as her parents, and they couldn't be prouder of what she's achieved.
Oh, over the moon. Aye, over the moon. It's like 13 years of hard work has paid off. I just wanted to get the best job and have the best life, because she's just amazing. Oh, baby.
Castlemilk remains one of Glasgow's most deprived areas. Megan is the first pupil from her school to be offered a place at Oxford.
I just think a lot of people don't really know that they could do it. And because they feel like it's like these schools are only for certain types of people that come from like certain backgrounds, or their parents went and their grandparents went, so it's like they don't feel like they should go.
But the degree could leave Megan in tens of £1,000s of debt. Her parents say there should be more support so youngsters like Megan can follow their dreams.
But that's probably been me and her mum's biggest concern, of trying to make sure she's stable financially down there.
And it's the thought of your 17-year-old daughter getting into a lot of debt to pay for her education.
Unfortunately, attainment still goes in line with relative deprivation.
There are still challenges, there are still barriers, and we all need to make sure that those barriers are removed so that young people get to do what they want to do.
Megan is determined to make it work and already has her sights set on a PhD. And with that kind of determination, she's sure to go far. Caroline Lewis, STV News.
Well done, Megan. 5 A's, Ronnie.
Oxford came calling to me, John, but I chose to have a career standing next to you. What was I thinking?
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Regretting it every day. Good evening. Malik Tillman says it was all thanks to the Rangers supporters that they managed to overturn a 2-0 deficit against Union Saint-Gilloise and set up a showdown with PSV for a place in the Champions League group stages. In another dramatic European night at Ibrox, Tillman netted the winner in a 3-0 win for Giovanni Van Bronckhorst men.
What a time for your first Rangers goal. With a scoreline level and a place in the playoff round of the Champions League at stake, up stepped Malik Tillman.
I'm so proud of my players, the way they played, with passion, with desire, with fire to go to the next round, and that's the only way. You have to be on the pitch to create the atmosphere we created today.
Trailing 2-0 from the first leg, Rangers needed an Ibrox European performance to remember. In an uneventful first half, a golden chance to break the deadlock before the break. James Tavernier from the spot didn't disappoint. The second came just before the hour mark. Antonio Cholak with a striker's finish. And after the Union keeper was caught in no man's land, Tillman secured progression.
Very important to keep pushing for these moments. We want to be in Champions League and the desire to be in the Champions League. I saw that today with my players.
PSV Eindhoven now lie in wait after they beat Monaco in extra time last night, a team the Rangers manager knows well.
It's a familiar place for me, so it's nice to be back in Holland for a couple of days after so many months in Glasgow. But, we're going to prepare well. It's a big chance for us to take the last hurdle and to become a team who can play Champions League this season.
The first leg takes place at Ibrox on Tuesday, before the return leg in the Netherlands a week later.
Staying with European football, and Dundee United have arrived in the Netherlands ahead of their Europa Conference League second leg tie against AZ Alkmaar. The Tangerines flew out from Glasgow this morning carrying a 1-0 advantage from the first leg. Chris Harvey is there for us.
Amsterdam, the beautiful capital city of the Netherlands, famous for its canals, its coffee shops, and now Dundee United fans. A Tangerine invasion in the city centre, in the heart of the Oranje. They're not here for a long time, they're here for a good time.
It's great, it's just brilliant to be here. First time for 10 years or so since we've been in Europe, and over the moon to be here, and just looking forward to the game. Great United support and terrific weather, fantastic.
Yeah, definitely going to pace ourselves. Unfortunately, we've discovered that pitchers of beer are better than buying it by pints.
Economies of scale, what can you do?
Well, you've just got to go with the flow.
We're here to enjoy the adventure, but I think United have got enough in the bucket to do it, so 2-1 United, come on.
Are you pacing yourself today?
Absolutely not.
Cheers, Mum.
Dad's here. Still got a hold of myself.
I think you just treat each game in isolation. We did that with the first leg. It was about trying to win that tie. And it's the same tomorrow evening. Obviously, depending on how the game unfolds, the duration of the game, etc., can change some of the choices you make within a match. But certainly in terms of how we approach the game to begin with, it's about trying to win the game in isolation.
Well, the party's already beginning here in Amsterdam. All of United fans, about 1,000 of them, will be meeting here at 6 o'clock tonight, local time, 5 o'clock in Scotland. So the party will be well underway.
That's all your sport from me tonight, folks. See you again tomorrow.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Sean has the weather, and his map is showing pretty much cloudless skies across Scotland.
Well, it's not often the satellite picture looks like this. You can almost see the whole of the UK, not a cloud in the sky, some very high temperatures around just now and staying that way over the next couple of days, with the exception of, yes, the far north and northwest. We've got more clouds, some outbreaks of rain, but for most of us, lots of sunshine and some very high temperatures in the next couple of days. Let's look at the forecast.
Watch out for a sudden temperature drop. TUI Blue Hotels sponsor STV Weather.
Well, we really are in the dog days of summer. Plenty of blue skies, oppressive heat in some spots, and staying very warm through tonight with plenty of sunshine. Clear skies overnight, patches of cloud in the far northwest. We've seen a weak weather front coming and going through today. Temperatures for most of us dropping back down to about 12 to 13 degrees a little bit later on the night. Now, tomorrow's forecast, I've sped this graphic up. There we are, 9, 10, 11 o'clock. Because there really isn't much to say about tomorrow, apart from we're going to see blue skies. It's going to be this way over the next couple of days. Clear blue skies for many of us. Again, the very far northwest, we see some patches of cloud coming in and some very high temperatures. Central and eastern areas up to 27 or 28, possibly near 30 in parts of the borders. Not far off where we were just a few weeks ago when we had that intense heat. UV levels are level 6. That means your burn time at the moment around 25 to 30 minutes. So if you're out enjoying that sunshine in the next couple of days, remember, lots of suntan lotion. So yes, blue skies for us Friday, Saturday, and for most of us on Sunday as well. We could see a little bit of high and low cloud coming onto the east coast. The highest temperatures at the moment in the east of the country, 28 in Edinburgh tomorrow, but it looks as if we'll see those higher temperatures building for us Saturday and Sunday. The wind going round to more of a south to southeasterly, which means around North Lanarkshire, Glasgow and across Ayrshire, her highs heading for the low 80s. Bye-bye.
TUI Blue Hotels sponsor STV Weather.
And finally, the finishing touches are being put to Edinburgh's newest tourist attraction as construction work on the historic North Bridge is being transformed into a community mural.
The road has been boarded up for years while restoration work take place, and what was an eyesore is now a vibrant community mural featuring some very familiar faces. Here's Laura Alderman.
Just a few final tweaks and Edinburgh's newest mural is ready. It's been almost 10 years in the making, but took just 3 weeks to assemble. It's hoped the painted crowds will encourage the real ones to return to the area. North Bridge has been partially closed since 2018 for essential restoration work, and it's not due to be completed for another 3 years. Until now, it was an eyesore and hurt local businesses.
The hoardings were rubbish. They were horrible. And this, and what I do, is provide soul for areas. So this is no longer a wall. I mean, when we arrived 2 days ago, no one was walking down here. Now there's a constant footfall of people going down there.
Many of Chris's murals have become a tourist destination in their own right.
So Chris was actually, he was the artistic mastermind, if you like, behind the Collington Tunnel, which is in my ward. And you know, that gave people a fantastic lift right through lockdown, you know, as that project was progressing. And because I felt that personally I owed him a huge debt because of what he'd done with the Collington Tunnel, I had to try my best to make it happen. So it's great to see it here, actually. That's absolutely fantastic.
And if you do fancy a bit of celeb spotting, there's a fair few to find.
Lorraine Kelly, I put her in everything. And also David Hasselhoff.
Over the next few months, some extra boards will be added to the mural and the 3,500 faces that are on it. Some faces might look more familiar than others, and if you look closely enough, it's just like watching the STV News at 6. Laura Alderman, STV News, Edinburgh.
That is you. I have to say, you're no oil painting. No, I mean, literally. That's
do you know what,
painting.
John? I thought you were just trying to insult me there, but do you know, where were you, John?
I wasn't there.
Well, there's the Hoff. I thought that was you, but it was a Hoff.
The Hoff. You can do with the hair, I'll tell you that. Anyway, thank you for watching. Good night.
Good night.